Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. Dogbot333, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron for the New Order as the Far Eastern Imperial Realm. Now, last time we were here together, we started working on more economy stuff. We're over 4 billion GDP. We're skirting around the billion dollar debt mark, but we keep cutting it down through this one little trick that economists hate, selling convoys, and also upping our taxes and keeping our spending down as much as we can, military austerity, all that fun stuff. Our growth is coming along quite well. We don't really have much in the way of inflation. We're getting increased economic growth going, so it's all coming along pretty well, honestly. We're even starting to come up on ending our poverty rate, which is going to be quite nice. The monthly population is a good boost, don't get me wrong, but I think it would be it's going to be better to get that down for the rest of these boosts. And just for the state of our country and having a happy population. Mass mechanization. Now, if we get over to modern agriculture, that would be quite nice. Make up for some of the loss we're going to get in the crew population side of things. So, let's just get to it, huh? We also have some background plotting going on in... Not really shocked about that. They don't have a focus tree after that. Makes sense. Our dear Uncle Prince Nikita's revisited, and it seems like Shepanov wants to overthrow us. I think it is clear in the light of this that we can't trust Mr. Shepanov. So after we finish up with our economic development, we're going to make efforts to ensure power and control lies with the monarch instead of the military clique. They're traitors, after all. They're working against the monarchy. Probably communist sleeper agents, let's be real. And we cannot tolerate this. I'll sell some more convoys, and in the meanwhile, wait till we get up there to sell the 100 after. Let's do some more. Improved anti-tank. That research going along. How's our economy doing? Let's hike up those taxes once again. Let's get some new industrial centers to more efficiently manage the construction of new factories. The Ministry of Finance has proposed establishing a series of industrial zones solely dedicated to housing our industry. Such a system has worked well in the past and famously was responsible for transforming the western portion of Siberia into Russia's industrial backbone. Although conditions are not nearly as favorable in the Far East, that's not to say we can't establish specialized zones to nurture the region's burgeoning industry. As we create these zones, we will look to our urban centers as well as the spaces in nature that have been reclaimed. A little bit hard work. This once overlooked stretch of wasteland can become a highly productive region capable of standing proudly amongst the rest of Russia's industrial heartlands. Well, there we go. Well, it looks like the dam isn't being built. That's probably a good thing, I'll be real. It's going to keep the falls alive. Probably the most bad I've felt in a campaign like this, which is probably insane, because there are people you can do genocide, paths where you commit genocide. But one of the ways I felt the most bad playing this game is starting to dam up the falls when I was playing Brazil. Because I'm an environmentalist at heart. I like nature. The increased resources would be chill as heck. Okay, let's do this. Let's go ahead and do the Imperial Heart of Siberia as well. Unlock the next stage of development. We're a little bit over 1 billion GDP now, which isn't... Or a billion GDP, 1 billion in debt. Which I don't love, you guys know that. But, I gotta get a little over it. We're doing some important developments. SU efficiency is key. Our factories still aren't working fast enough. Despite all our efforts, they're still running into frustrating bottlenecks which hamper their efficiency and cripple production. Upon closer inspection, a large part of this lies in the way that the factories themselves operate. They still operate by rules and methods from several decades ago. This will not do, and the solution may again lie in the land of the rising sun. Japan's economy is renowned for its brutal efficiency, and we would do well to try and copy their methods of production however we can. We will invite Japanese experts to streamline our production lines and ensure that our workers are doing their jobs as efficiently as possible. Only then can we hope to match the industrial output of our rivals. Let's pay off that debt. Wasn't much, but it was something to pay off. The nuclear war in Serbia, really? Commies, I guess that makes sense. I just didn't know you could do that. That's interesting. Well. How the I'm not even... What the fuck is that name? That name is fucking crazy. I just gotta say that. We're gonna get a lot of nice boosts over in Chita from finishing up this focus. And we got more dockyards, boys. You know what that means? More convoys. Can we even build more more dockyards so we can build more convoys, I wonder? Not quite. We can build 2 more, and I suppose we will. But we're kind of struggling for infrastructure elsewhere. I don't know if we build infrastructure up here, that would be useful. I got a comment earlier encouraging me to do something with my... Please do all the economic and population clicks as often as you can. Not much reason to save political power. That I know. That I agree with too. Let's see. Oh, that's interesting. It looks like we have to decide whether or not to look to the co-prosperity sphere or the OFN and figure out. I think that requires us to finish up our political stuff over here. So, looks like that's our next purpose, to expand the population. Next, the East awakens. It took a great deal of toil, but the numbers speak for themselves. Our economy is showing signs of proper activity for the first time in years, and it's become almost completely self-sustaining. Factories across the region, once seen as an inhospitable frozen hell, are hard at work. Their workers laboring tirelessly to ensure the prosperity of the empire. Thanks to our modernization efforts, their productivity has risen to never-before-seen levels. Against all odds, the Russian Far East has finally risen from the cold, deep slumber. Rejuvenated beyond our wildest dreams, with newfound wealth and prosperity, the white movement has never been in a stronger position. We're finally going to start decreasing our poverty rate as well, which is huge. It's also time to sell some convoys. There we go. Pay off our debt. Whew. That's beautiful. The National Party is back in New Zealand. Selling off our resources here is a little... all here, actually. That's a little rough, but we're making good money off of it. And we're going to get it back in a couple days. It's only a lease. Improve our anti-tank. A little ahead of time to worry about those rifles, but... well, that is right. We can get working on this now. Which means we build this, and that increases our dockyard construction speed. Which you guys know I'm all about right now. You know, we should probably go ahead and extend this out. Take up the whole front. And, you know, honestly, as much as this is a bit of a debt sink, getting... Where's Torah? Is it up here? Evenkia, Southern Evenkia. Oh, this is for Yakutia. I don't think I give a shit about that. I might unlock a decision after that. I might as well. The East awakens. Let's see. Oh, that's beautiful. Look at that. Well, it's finally time to put our faith in Mikhail. Our Tsar has been long depressed and despondent, doing his duty only because of veiled threats and no other choice. His speech is only barely intelligible, long been a sore spot between the Tsar and the military. However, Mikhail has surprisingly expressed a degree of interest in his duties. With renewed sense of vigor, he goes about learning the Russian in language and involving himself in any way that he can. It seems that our prayers have been answered. While some worry that this will lead to more independent-minded Mikhail, at the end of the day, the military is still in charge. For now. I mean, what? How close are we to... We are very close to being able to sell more convoys. There we go. Take some convoys. It was the early dawn when a grizzled old figure stepped onto his front porch, a glass of vodka in hand. Kirill leaned into his chair, savoring the crisp morning air. Only a few years ago, he would be setting out into the wilderness to hunt or forage, but now, there's hardly anything left of the forest he once knew so well. The old hunter had turned his eyes down, gazing at the vast industrial park which had replaced the wilderness. He played a part in that, trading his soul for money, helping destroy the forest which had provided his family for generations. Although the IDC had paid him handsomely for his services, the money helped him keep his home, allowed him to provide his children the education to ensure that they do well in New Siberia. His children were somewhere down there, working in the vast expanse of steel and concrete. Siberia may have been tamed, the wilderness replaced with civilization, but civilization was no place for men like him. His children would never be able to live the life he had, probably for the better. But where others saw progress, all he saw was the cost of the wildlife, the forests, and the rivers. His glass was empty now, alcohol dulling his mind, filled as it was with regrets and increasingly distant memories. Stumbling onto his feet, the old hunter went back inside. One last untamed beast in a civilized land. The cost of progress. Let's do some mechanization as well, because that'll help for our poverty rate. That's a fire alarm going off. I smell food. My roommate's making something. I'm not worried. Is that the fire alarm? I don't think it is, actually. I don't know. I don't know. I just work here. The resources here actually would be nice, the more that I look at them. You know, let me go ahead and do this click right over here. Consolidate state resource corporations. That'll give us a heck of a lot more. And look at that, we have to finish the power triumph anyway. Oh, well, actually, here we go. Ivan Mikolov barged into Tsar Mikhail's quarters with a briefcase hastily tucked under his arm, not even bothering to knock. After peeking his head out, that makes me wonder, actually, will we go ahead? Maybe not. After peeking his head out for a quick check of the corridor, he shut his door and approached the seated monarch, who had been waiting for some time. Are you sure you weren't followed? Do you make double sure? Mikhail inquired nervously as he drummed his fingers on the table. I'm positive. Let's just get this over with. I don't wish to stay here any longer than I have. Mikhailov opened his briefcase and laid several papers from within across the table, each inscribed with a list of names. Clearing his throat, he took a seat. As he took a seat across from the Tsar, the minister continued. So, let's get down to business. These are the most important people we'll need to get in contact with. It's very important you commit these names to memory. Who are these people, exactly? Potential allies. If we're going to get rid of Shepanov, we'll need friends. If we can convince some wealthy oligarchs and disgruntled military men to join our cause, we'll be well on the road to breaking the White Army's grip. Cole set aside his papers. Very well, I'll see if I can't negotiate with Shepanov to allow some harmless private audiences. Suppose he doesn't need to know what goes on in them. Mr. drew a grievous grin. Exactly my thinking. You learn right with fast, Your Majesty. It's time to spin some webs. Let's do public visits, private audiences. Actually, let's do the this real quick. The Imperial Department of Order and Safety. A security agency would be nice, I think. It's not enough they're military to enforce order. For it, they had to continue doing just that. We would have had no troops to look westward when the time is right. Indeed, many in the High Command are just as frustrated as our loyal civilians are when it comes to the ongoing insurgencies that have plagued us since we defeat our enemies in the fields. However, it appears that a solution is in sight. A group of younger officers have proposed an interior pacification organization in which the top brass is run with and is restructured into what essentially is a secret police. This organization, known as the Imperial Department of Foreign Security, or the IDOS, will be the ones primarily responsible for dealing with these insurgencies and their fallout. Recruiting from the least ideologically corrupt members of the communist and fascist secret policies, the High Command expects that IDOS will be able to effectively counter these insurgencies. Well, there we go. Interesting developments going on in the north. Pay off that debt. Look at that. Meanwhile, they haven't even beaten fucking Onega. Onega? I'm not sure how you say that, I'll be real. Let's do administrative building construction. Let's sell some more convoys. Let's do that. Resource lending. Now let's encourage investments into our trade hubs. That'll be quite nice. Yeah. Well, it looks like Finland has backed out of that, which I think is going to enable... Onega to be taken out, and that's just gonna leave Russia in an okay position, I suppose. Or the West Russians in a better position. Roughly. Maybe, I don't know. Let's modernize the, what do we want to do? Factory output, or... Let's do the hydropower station. None of these are that crazy, economy-wise, but I do want to pump the brakes a little bit on our debt. I don't want to get too out of control here. Our inflation is starting to pick up a little bit anyway, and that's not the best. Well, there we go. We got a nice little security agency. Next, let's do some land grant extensions. Now that the provinces have been divided and the Imperial Government Committee founded, there comes the matter of who will actually govern these provinces. And their various subregions. Shepanov has naturally assumed that all of the individual governors would be the loyal military officers that he's known for years. However, the unexpected voice of Ivan Mikhailov puts forward another option. The creation of so-called royal governors would be civilians nominated to their positions. Regardless of the specifics of our decisions, we need to finalize and codify the responsibilities and limitations of these governors, and officially extend these land grants to the individuals chosen. Yeah. Yeah, that. Totally. The warehouse was filled with a buzzing tension that always filled the Savlinite headquarters. The prospects of a white crackdown was never far from the minds of those assembled. And every member of the underground had sworn oaths to both one another into absolute secrecy. How then did the Eidos know exactly where to find them? The door flew off the hinges of the Tsar's death squad stormed inside, with Savlinites screaming for their weapons. Vasily, Katya, and Boris died in the first few seconds. Soft lungs, hearts, and hard heads blooming like dripping roses, and answered Tsar's bullets. An errant war round tore through the portrait of Savlin that stood at the end of a table, shattering of a glass unheard in the rattle gunfire. The Leninists fought back, firing wildly with pistols and cheap SMGs, crouching behind overturned tables. Others attempted to flee. The last thing they saw before running into the snow were the hollow and betrayed faces of their comrades, who loved them above all others. The operation was a tremendous success. Every communist bandit was accounted for, either dead or in the tender clutches of the Eidos. Blood dripped down onto the fallen portrait. If anyone had bothered to look, they might have thought Savlin was weeping blood. The White Terror returns. Well, we lost the naval rearmament program. What does that do to our production? That nerfs it pretty hard. That's truly unfortunate. But we are still able to sell convoys in the meanwhile, so my enjoyment is back for now. There we go. Better military professionalism. So that's going to get us up to political interference. We'll also get better agricultural methods like that. Just look at that. It's beautiful. Well, just like that. Wait. Oh, yeah. Dockyards, baby. Like that. I just want to make sure. Yep, professional army, just like that, once we work our way down here. That is beautiful. Truly. Time would come to decide who shall govern the administrative divisions laid out by the Imperial Governing Committee. Minister of Finance Ivan Mikhailov and Army Chief of Staff Boris Shepanov have butted heads over this critical decision, each submitting their own plan for how the country should be governed. Surprisingly, Shepanov's plan... God, that's actually terrible how high those rates are. That's a nasty overthought. Unsurprisingly, Shepanov's plan for allotting grants heavily favors the military. If he were to have his way, the governors would largely consist of military men. These handpicked officers would be veteran confidants of Shepanov, with some of them serving with him since the days of the Russian Civil War. Ivan Mikhailov's plan, on the other hand, heavily favors the loyalists. Mikhailov believes that the royal governors should be assigned the grants. These governors would be elected from amongst the civilians of the empire rather than from the White Army. In the end, which of these men get their way? Let's do land grants to the royal governors. Let's finalize the new system in the meanwhile. Well, it's far from perfect, as the new governors depart to their new territories, establish formal administration that's more than what the previous had been. Simple-minded military occupation. The government based in Chita is optimistic about the future of the Far East under their control. The efforts to stabilize and administer our new lands is not complete, however. Some outstanding earmarks in prior discussions, including the nature of taxation and where the military can be housed, whether billets or barracks, and seemingly dozens of other footnotes can now be dealt with. Shepanov has already called a council in which all of these small issues can be dealt with, and our new system can be finalized. Tsunami Bolg. We can recruit a spy. Let's get Lyudmila. Send her over to Novosibirsk. And do some espionage related things. Let's improve our healthcare network, actually, with the boost we got from the convoys. And then we'll use the rest to pay off the debt. Man, we really haven't done much to improve our healthcare, have we? Yeah, let's try to rectify that now. As best we can. Let's do public visits and private audiences. With Tsar's renewed interest in statesmanship, he's humbly and formally requested of Boris Shepanov to begin receiving guests in his quarters, making public appearances to various places within the empire to make himself known to the people and the elite in public light. With much deliberation and reluctance, and with no short amount of convincing from Mikhailov, Shepanov has agreed to allow this request from the monarch. Sir's audience was with Mikhailov himself, adding to Shepanov's reluctance, though Mikhail's intent to visit and inspect the Imperial Guard in Chita seemed to placate him. With these public visits and private audiences, Vizar will make himself known to both the people and those within the civilian positions of power as a present and willing monarch. Let's hike up those taxes. Nice to reduce the inflation soon, if we can. The domino falls in Peru. What does that mean exactly? It's a spear. Of course it's a spear. It's probably good for us, I think. I don't know if joining the Japanese's economic sphere actually does anything to help us. Ataturk's parties have been re-elected in Turkey. Oh, shit. So, Ivan, why have you dragged us down here? I assume this isn't just a pastime with some old friends. For a moment, Mikhailov scanned his audience carefully. After calling in favors in a few well-placed words, five of the most powerful industrial oligarchs in the Russian Far East now sat before both him and the Tsar. He would have chosen his next words with discretion. I'm afraid not, my friend. I want to discuss business. Well, where you're all chafing of the weight of the monstrous budget sink that is the White Army, you're looking for solutions. Am I correct? No, it's not a burn of the budget. It's selling convoys. Just saying. Let's also lease out these resources. There is a pause amongst the oligarchs before one of them cautiously spoke up. Tell you the truth, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. You have no idea how much this kind of defense spending eats into man's profits. Nothing we can do about it, though. The White Army's word is law around these parts. Our goal is aligned, then. His Majesty and I seek to curb the influence of the military and return the Empire to civilian rule. Of course, to make this happen, we'll need friends. Thought you never ask. Tell us what you need, and you'll have it. Just make sure we're taken care of once this is over, alright? The oligarch's answer was joined by several nods of agreement from his colleagues. Mikhailov glanced at the Tsar and smiled as he turned his attention back towards the businessman. I think we have a deal, my friends. The dollar is mightier than the sword. There we go. Let us go to Volkanov's clique, excuse me. Both Mikhail and Mikhailov have become aware of Volkanov, an influential figure within the Imperial Army and old rival Shepanov's, who signaled to Mikhailov's contacts within the Loyalists that he may be willing to help Mikhail's plight against Shepanov and the military's hold on the administration. While it may not be easy to win over Volkanov, his assistance in the upcoming struggle against the interim prime minister and his iron grip that the Tsardom over the Tsardom would be essential in ensuring that Shepanov and his cronies would not silence the Tsar forever. Remember, my Tsar, all warfare is based on deception, even the wars which are not fought on the battlefields but instead played inside palace chambers and within parliaments. Let's all go to Expo. Refugees fleeing from the vengeance-obsessed lands administrated by Omsk have notified us of internal propaganda being distributed in their territory. Apparently, we're little more than rapacious warlords here to profit off the dark age of Russia. Yet simultaneously, we're naive enthusiasts, who are capable of making the hard choices needed to ensure Russia's survival in the face of the Great Trial. Regardless of the internal inconsistencies, this marks a notable moment in our relations with Black League. It seems war will be in our frontiers before long. Well, the League was never going to leave us alone. The ocean elections, very interesting. And just like that, we're starting to put things together. Healthcare is improving a little bit more. I'd like it to get up further, of course, but that'll come along. Captain Igor eyed Vizar with only a modicum of interest as he made small talk with the factory workers. His instructions from the brass had been to Make sure the Tsar doesn't get into too much trouble. It was less specific than the captain would have liked. What did they even define as trouble anyway? Igor figured it was likely one of those you'll know it when you see it scenarios, if nothing else. Resting his cheek against his fist, Igor began to notice something peculiar about the Tsar. Babysitting Mikhail was nothing new to him, but this time there was something different about his mannerisms. He seemed energetic and talkative, and Igor could swear this was the first time he ever saw the Tsar laugh with sincerity. It felt wrong. The Tsar was a prisoner, and anyone in this rump empire knew that fact all too well. Taylor Swift all too well? I've been spending too much time with my girlfriend, Jesus. Mikhail was always a miserable sod, so why did he seem to have a pep in his step today? Why did it not feel right? The captain was broken out of his racing thoughts as Mikhail approached him, a smile still sobbing on his face. All right, Igor, let's get out of here, shall we? Yes, sir, of course, Your Majesty. Rising company of the Tsar outside, he couldn't help but notice the energy he had seen in him a minute ago was quite prevalent in his tone of voice as well. It was both heartwarming and unsettling to see him in such a mood, and Igor knew that, if nothing else, would make for an interesting anecdote in his next report to command. What's gotten into him? Some satanic black magic. Sick shit. Okay, once we pay off this debt, I'm gonna go ahead. Oh, there we go. I'm gonna go ahead and expand the national industrialization efforts. Well, I thank you for coming on such short notice, General. I'm sure you've been quite busy indeed these days, Mikhail said as he graciously shook hands with his guest for the evening, General Dmitry Volkolganov. Do we have him in here? No, we don't. Should probably toss him in soon. As he sat by the Tsar's ornate dining table, Volkolganov noticed that the Minister of Finance was present as well. General! So good of you to join us. Meaning to speak with you in person for a while now. Volganov flashed a confused smile at Mikhailov. Well, I appreciate the hospitality, sirs, but I'm not sure what we could possibly discuss that also can't be worked out with my superiors. Leaning forward, Mikhailov continued. Oh, there's plenty, General. You've garnered a reputation as a man who tries to do the right thing, even when he has to go against the wishes of the brass. Am I right? The General's eyes narrowed. What are you saying? Exactly. Well, it's no secret that the Empire chafes under the crushing influence of the White Army. Now, that being said, not everyone in the military is corrupted, General. And I believe that you are one of these men. You want me to go against Shepanov? I hope you realize that this will be tantamount to insubordination. I'm afraid I'll have to report this. Witnessing Mikhail and his minister go wide as a sheet, the general erupted into wheezing laughter. Not to worry, I only jest. That old fool's running the country in the ground and driving me mad in the process. Tell me where you need them, Your Majesty, and my men will be there. Quite a colorful character. Let's pull back the curtain next. Mikhailov has come to the Tsar with what seems to be a completely ludicrous proposal to pull back the curtain on Shepanov's puppet show in a public place, to showcase the true extent of Shepanov's influence to both the public and the officers. Public event in Chita, the Tsar would make overtures and actions that Shepanov would simply be unable to abide by. This, of course, is incredibly dangerous. Even if it was successful, it would likely draw a line in the sand and likely make the Prime Minister of the Tsar's know of the Tsar's plans. However, Mikhailov's bet plays off. Shepanov would have his machinations revealed publicly. Mikhail knows that without sufficient civilian support, this plot could backfire intensely. However, he has ultimately decided to be worth it. Warning, without sufficient civilian support, this plan could go seriously wrong for Mikhail. Well, let us go ahead and do that to boost things in the meanwhile. And let's work on the new rifles now. get them out to the net and pumped out. Ideally before, get the lines going well enough, likely before the Commonwealth really starts the war march against us. And that way, we can go ahead, not only get the professional army, or what is it exactly? Political interference? Professional army, yeah, it's just professional, okay. Remember this used to be Spartanus. I think it was after the Hydric Path. It's interesting how they changed the name. I suppose it makes sense, too. I'm just building that infrastructure fairly well at this rate. We could use some more hospitals after this. I think it's about time we start worrying about such things. Let's build some hospitals around here. I think this will do nicely. How's our logistics doing in the meanwhile? I think we have decent supply out to here, but we can get that to be. We'll expand that out to that way. Expand that out here. So supply up on currents would be solid as well. We'll plop it there. Actually, I'll plop it in an actual city because that'll mess with me a little bit. Do we not have any cities over here? We do in Torah, but that's not quite what I want. Let's get that supply hub in Kerensk. What we'll probably do is we'll build up the railway up to here. And then get that connected. Honestly, we'll get working on that ASAP. We'll even queue down the infrastructure to get that finished first. It's been a long time, indeed, since so many eyes were on Mikhail II. Before, it was a whole host of unscrupulous men thinking excitedly of all the ways they could manipulate their new puppet. This time, however, was different. The audience before Mikhail was of a real, genuine allies who saw him as how a monarch should be. A beacon of unity made flesh. Ladies and gentlemen, in this room are people of varying stripes and backgrounds. Some of you businessmen who drove his empire's great industry forward, even in times of hardship. I don't know what the fuck this accent is. It was messy. Oh, okay. Some of you politicians who seek only to represent their constituents to the very best of their abilities. A few of you officers of the White Army, the very same force that once bravely defied the Soviet usurper so long ago. Despite these very stark contrasts between you all, you've all come here unified behind a singular purpose. To take back our country from the selfish and corrupt generals who seek to transform this ancient and glorious empire to nothing more than a quasi-fascist autocracy, with me as a helpless puppet. I'm speaking, of course, of Prime Minister Boris Shepanov. The man likes to think he has us all in his iron grip, but he will soon discover that he isn't nearly as clever as he thinks. Despite our differences, we will fight side by side to remove the aspiring tyrant from our midst and continue the journey towards reunification. God save Russia, one and individual. The applause was overwhelming, and Hitler would have been eager to bask in newfound glory. In the back of his mind, however, he couldn't help but worry that his captors might be listening. A bold speech. Let's Do a curt realization. Or I would do a curt realization, but I just realized we don't have any time to finish this up. It's a shame, but what are you going to do? Well, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to end the video here. But thank you as always for watching, my friends. If you like, so you like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you have any comments, feedback, leave in the comment section below. I do read all the comments I get, and I appreciate any all feedback you might have for me. Check out my various links down in the description box below. Leave any comments or feedback down in the comment section as well. I read all the comments again. I do appreciate any all feedback you have for me. To sub on the notification bell to keep updated with these uploads as they come out. And yeah, I'm going to leave things there, but thanks always for watching, my friends. My name has been Mr. Dogbot333, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye now.